Demian Maia versus Gilbert Burns takes place in the co-main event of UFC Fight Night 170 on ESPN Plus 28 Brasilia. Lee versus Oliveira, and I can't wait for this fight. Two jiu-jitsu guys going at it, but Gilbert Burns is a bit more of a striker. I'm looking forward to it. Gilbert Burns making his resurgence at 170 pounds. He was formerly at 155 pounds. Had some ups and downs there, but who can blame him? We didn't know what a monster Dan Hooker was going to go on and become. Dan Hooker destroys Gilbert Burns in the first round by KO. It was a brutal one and a bad loss at the time, but now we know Dan Hooker's going after Dustin Poirier and might be one fight away from a title shot. Back then we didn't know that, and now Gilbert Burns has moved up to 170. He's got two big initial wins over Alexei Kunchenko and Gunnar Nelson. By the way, big information, both of which were on short notice. I don't think Gilbert Burns even ever planned to go up to 170 pounds. I just think they were offering him short notice fights at 170 and he was like, yeah, no cutting weight, short notice. I can do it. Went up weight, short notice. I don't think he ever planned a move. I think he just was like, oh shit, okay, I don't have to cut any weight. Cool, I'll go in here on a week's notice and defeat Alexei Kunchenko and just annihilate him. In Russia, destroys Alexei Kunchenko. Alexei Kunchenko was 20-0 at the time, an absolute monster. Everyone was scared of him. I picked Gilbert Burns to fucking beat him. No one else believed me, but I saw Gilbert Burns, the short notice Gilbert Burns legend, from the very beginning. I was there watching. Okay? Yes, I picked Gunnar Nelson to beat him. But he beat Gunnar Nelson on short notice as well. Very good performance. I wonder what he's going to be like on full camp. If he has the cardio to outlast Gunnar Nelson and Alexei Kunchenko and win the later rounds in those fights, what's he going to do on full camp? Especially against the guy in Demian Maia, on the other hand, who's, let's talk about him for a second. We've got the streaking contender in Gilbert Burns, but on the other side of the coin, we've got Demian Maia, who's been around, he's had his title shots, he's never quite made it to championship level. Well, he's never quite made it to having a belt wrapped around his waist, but he's made it to championship level. He's always been championship level. He's only lost to the best in the world, and that continues to this day. I mean, you look at the welterweight division right now, he's lost to Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, and Tyron Woodley. That's champ 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like, he's not losing to schmucks. I like Demian Maia. I think he's going to lose this fight, man. I'm picking Gilbert Burns in the upset. I really am. I think Gilbert Burns, and I wouldn't be surprised if the odds are very close as well, because I think Gilbert Burns is going to go out there and finish Demian Maia in the third round and do something that we don't see many people do. No one really finishes Demian Maia, but I feel like Gilbert Burns is going to be put in a situation, and no one finishes Demian Maia because they don't want to. Finishing someone requires, unless you get a clean one-punch KO, which probably won't happen against Demian Maia because he's got a great chin, finishing someone requires getting in there on the ground and putting hands on him. Even if you knock them down, there's still a ground engagement, and no one wants to make that engagement with Demian Maia. You saw Kamaru Usman drop Maia a couple of times. Doesn't want any of the groundwork. Tyron Woodley dropped Demian Maia a couple of times. Didn't want any of the groundwork. Colby Covington actually came closest to finish Demian Maia because he wasn't really too afraid of going to the ground with Demian Maia. He was sort of more okay to start beating up on Maia from on top of him. So Colby Covington got close, but I feel like Colby Covington was in a situation where he didn't even have to finish Demian Maia. You know, he was in a situation where he's up 2 rounds. He had the third round. I feel like Gilbert Burns is going to be in a situation in this fight where he's down 2 rounds. I think Demian Maia is going to win the first 2 rounds of this fight. I really do. I think he's going to be the bigger man. He's going to come in there. He's going to be a lot stronger than Gilbert Burns. And he's going to put him in some difficult positions. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Demian Maia on the back of Gilbert Burns for 2 whole fucking rounds. But Gilbert Burns is going to survive. You know why Gilbert Burns is going to survive? Because he's a 4-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. That's why. Okay? 3-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, sorry. 3-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. And he's going to survive in those positions because there's a level of jiu-jitsu, and I said this in my full card breakdown video, but I'm going to go into it with a little bit more detail. There's a level of jiu-jitsu right now in MMA. There was a time not too long ago where jiu-jitsu was the shit. You know, the origins of MMA, jiu-jitsu was everything. No one understood what it was. Now everyone understands what it is if you're at the highest level. There are some people who still are having trouble, But I feel as though, especially when you're a jiu-jitsu guy who Gilbert Burns is, but anyway in MMA, there's a level of jiu-jitsu that you can achieve, regardless of your background to begin with, where you can just get by from positions. It's very hard to secure a submission in MMA with all of the sweat, with all of the blood, with all of the punches and the fucking elbows in certain positions as well. Very hard to secure yourself a submission win, especially when guys know what they're doing now. You know? Guys understand where they're in danger. Guys understand what they have to do to get out of danger. And it's very easy to get to a good position for a submission on the ground if you're a great grappler. Very difficult, especially nowadays, to set up a submission because guys know what's coming. Oh, you've got my back? Time to fight hands. You know? That's just how it is. Like, oh, you've got my arm? I'm going to mount you and yank it out. You know? Like, it's just... I don't know. It's just... I don't think Demian Maia is going to submit him. And I also noticed that in the Demian Maia versus Anthony Rocco Martin fight, that's exactly what we saw. We saw Anthony Rocco Martin, who had a fundamental knowledge of jiu-jitsu because he's a wizard himself, a little bit. Not quite to the level of Gilbert Burns, but he knows what he's doing. He was able to stay out of trouble. You know? He was able to stay out of trouble against Demian Maia. Maia had him in some compromising positions, but he understood, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, because that's going to leave me vulnerable for a submission. I'm just going to chill here, and when I get my moment to get back up, that's what I'm going to do. And in the third round, with Anthony Rocco Martin and Demian Maia, we saw that. The third round, if you remember that fight between Maia and Rocco Martin, was Rocco Martin walking down a gassed out Demian Maia that's been trying to out-grapple Rocco Martin for 2 rounds, Maia backing up and Anthony Rocco Martin laying it on him. And that's why it was a close fight and we got a draw and a decision majority for Demian Maia because it was very close towards the end of that third round. I feel as though Gilbert Burns has a better level of jiu-jitsu than Anthony Rocco Martin, which is fair to say. Okay, yes, he's a little bit of a smaller guy, but is he? I'm sure he can build a little bit of mass. He's a stocky little guy. He's going to be very strong. I feel as though we're going to see Demian Maia take his back for 2 rounds. Gilbert Burns is going to just defend the position for the entire time of 2 rounds. And then in the third, when Demian Maia's grappling becomes a little bit less dominant, because it's shown to do so in his career, he can get guys down in that first or second round. But once he comes to the third round, the rate of submission for Demian Maia goes drastically downwards. Okay? Yes, he beat Ben Askren in the third round, but he had 2 more after that. When he has 3-round fights, very seldom, other than against Matt Brown as well, huh? Okay, well, I'm going to say this. He doesn't seem to get submissions as much as he used to. Okay, there used to be a moment in Demian Maia's career when he was on the come-up and when he was on this massive 7-fight win streak against Alexander Yakovlev, Ryan LaFleur, Neil Magny, Gunnar Nelson, Matt Brown, Carlos Condit, Jorge Masvidal, where there was an aura of Demian Maia, and especially with these wins as well, John Fitch, Rick Story, Dong Hyun Kim, where if he got you on the ground, it was over. You're down on the ground with Demian Maia in the first round, game fucking over, he's going to choke you out immediately. There seems to be a bit less of that as his career is going on, and I have to question motivation here. Demian, this is not the fight to get you towards a title shot if you have 2 fights left, Demian Maia. Everyone knows that. We know that. Demian Maia, if he really was serious about moving himself up rankings and getting back to the belt, he had 3 fights left. He beat Ben Askren. He could ask for a much bigger fight. If Demian Maia called out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson would accept that fight, 100%. It'd be a good matchup for him, I think. You know? On the feet, Demian Maia would be lost against Wonderboy, and I'm sure he would like that. That Wonderboy would love that matchup, I'm sure. I know it's going to be a bit of a problem with the takedowns, but Wonderboy trains with Weidman every day, who out-grappled Maia, so... And on short notice as well, by the way. Weidman outdone Maia, so... I don't like Maia's motivation, is what I really want to say. And I do like Gilbert Burns's, because Gilbert Burns has had his chances, and he's lost them, but now he's put together a lot of momentum in a new division, under a new slate. No one's beating him at welterweight. He's coming up. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now, and I think he's going to put together a third one and defeat Demian Maia by TKO in the third round. 2 rounds of grappling. Maia's going to gas out, and Burns is going to put the pressure on to a Maia who maybe doesn't want it anymore. Because listen, he knew he had 3 fights left. He beat a top contender in Ben Askren, who's a huge name, in a massive fight night because everyone was tuning in, and it was a fight of the night performance as well. Instead of riding that momentum and hype to call out the opponent that's going to get him towards that one last chance at a title belt, he said, you know what? I'll take on the next up-and-comer, Gilbert Burns. I'll take on the next up-and-comer, Gilbert Burns. It frustrates me because I know he doesn't want it. You know, there's no way you want to get back to a title shot, because fighting Gilbert Burns, who's ranked far below you, is not what you want to do to get back to a title shot. You know, that's just not what you want to do. I don't understand. Why not call out Colby Covington for a rematch? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand the motivation. It's almost like he's planning on passing the torch to Gilbert Burns. Yeah, I'll take on a Brazilian ranked way below me in Brazil as the co-main event. Like, it seems all too perfect for Demian Maia to attempt some submissions in the first 2 rounds and then give up and just let the guy win. It's almost like he's planned this entire thing out so that if he does lose, which is a bad mindset to have anyway, that at least it will be a Brazilian that's taking the torch from him. I don't know. I just think Gilbert Burns' mindset's going to be screwed on straight. He knows exactly what he's got to do. He has a level of jiu-jitsu higher than anyone that Demian Maia's ever fought. He's a multiple-time Brazilian jiu-jitsu world champion. There's not much you can say for anyone else on Demian Maia's resume other than maybe that they're a good grappler, but no one has the level of jiu-jitsu that Gilbert Burns has to take on Demian Maia. I think he's going to do very well. Demian Maia is a lot bigger than him, which does worry me because the size is a huge part of fights, and obviously there's a reason why we separate things in weight class, but I think Gilbert Burns is going to come in there. He's going to be lighter on his feet. A lot of guys that go against Demian Maia like to pack on a little bit. Colby Covington was a little bit chunkier against Demian Maia because they like to have the strength in those grappling situations, you know? But Gilbert Burns is going to be light on his feet. He's going to defend very calmly in positions of Demian Maia having his back in the first 2 rounds. They're going to get up, and Demian Maia in the 3rd round is going to give in. I think Burns is going to start putting the pressure on him, landing some of that volume that he does so well. Maia's going to give in a little bit. He's going to start shooting for lousy takedowns. Burns is going to end up on top, plastering the face out of Demian Maia, and we're going to see a TKO finish in the 3rd round from Gilbert Burns. The torch will be passed, and what better place for a torch to be passed than into the hands of a man whose surname is Burns. That was a really forced joke from me, and I'm not proud of it, but it's just a happy coincidence, you know? Anyway, Gilbert Burns is going to win the fight. And after this one, call out Colby fucking Covington. You're in Brazil. You're going to have the Brazilian fans a little bit uneasy about you because you just beat Demian Maia. Win the Brazilian fans over by saying, now I want Colby Covington to honour Demian Maia's name and honour Brazil and my country and all this. Go crazy. Brazilian fans will love it. Build a narrative. Everyone's going to get behind you in Brazil if you call out Colby Covington. That's what Gilbert Burns is going to do, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope that's what happens. Gilbert Burns wins by 3rd round TKO, or he does enough damage in the 3rd round to where they just say, fuck it, let's call off the fight because Demian Maia might die. I think that's what's going to happen. And that's a very uneasy prediction to make because Demian Maia has been finished once in his entire career. And that may sound not very good. But if you think of the length of Demian Maia's career, I mean, the guy has been about doing the damn thing since 2001. Jesus, he made his debut in 2001. That is 19 years of hard fucking work. He hasn't lost a fight by stoppage since being KO'd by Nate Marquardt, who was on every single steroid known to man, in 2009. And since then, he's been on absolute fucking tear. I think Demian Maia's going to lose, though. I just do. I don't like his mindset, man. I feel like he's ready to just go. You know? When you're telling me I've got 3 fights left, I don't want to know that you have 3 fights left. I want you to retire out of nowhere after a fight. Like, that's what I don't like, guys knowing that they're going to retire. And it's the same thing with DC. I'm not picking DC to beat Stipe Miocic. I'm not doing it. In the trilogy, I'm not doing it. I didn't do it in the rematch because DC was talking about retirement. I got my own way. Stipe KO'd him in the 4th round. I'm not doing it in the trilogy. I don't like listening to guys say they want to retire. I don't like listening to guys say that they only have 3 fights left and they're not going for title shots. That's a big red flag. I'm picking against Demian Maia. I keep fucking doing it, but trust me, this time it's going to work. Gilbert fucking Burns. See you later. Goodbye. Click that button there. Subscribe.